Man, what a night of hockey, huh? The Kraken win, Team USA wins, everybody wins. Well, except for the Ducks and Team Canada. They lost. What's cracking, everybody? And yes, indeed, it is a Seattle Kraken win as they go into Anaheim and defeat the Ducks 4-3. And it's a win that feels pretty good too, especially coming off of that loss at home to the Arizona Coyotes, who were on the second night of a back-to-back. Meanwhile, the Kraken had just come off of a week's-long rest. Of course, this may not have been a win that we necessarily saw coming, given where these two teams are at this point in the season either. Yes, if you told me at the beginning of the season that one of these teams would be fighting for a playoff spot, meanwhile the other was decisively in last in the division, I probably would have thought the roles would be switched. The Ducks are still fighting for that third spot in the Pacific. The Kraken, though, for the first time in quite a while it seems, finally actually got healthier before this game, which is definitely a pleasant change of pace. And maybe there is something to be said for, like, as the Coyotes had a chance to do before facing the Kraken, Seattle getting a bit of a chance to knock off some of the rust from the All-Star break before coming to play the Ducks, who were playing their first game in over a week and a half. If that was the case, though, it definitely didn't show early on, as the Ducks dominated right out of the gate, almost scoring in the first few seconds, as Drieger, who was in net for the Kraken in this one, misplayed a puck behind the net. It bounces out in front of the net before Drieger can get back around, and the only way that it stays out instead of an easy tap-in goal is thanks to the defensive stick by Larson. As Drieger wipes the sweat from his brow and collects himself at one end of the ice, right back the other way, the Kraken push into the offensive zone, and it's the new guy, Austin Czarnik, in his first game for the Kraken, throwing a puck from the blue line up front across to Donato, who buries it through the 5-hole, and the Kraken get the early lead. So it is a pleasantly surprising early 1-0 lead for the Kraken, and for Czarnik, just 2 minutes into his first game for Seattle, he already has his first point in a Kraken jersey. Right off the ensuing puck drop, Alexiak, who's finally back from his myriad of issues with the non-COVID illness, then the lower body injury, and whatever else was keeping him out for the last few weeks, he drops gloves with Delurier, and this, if you're into hockey fights, was an absolute can't-miss highlight reel of a fight. They are two big men that were throwing some pretty big punches, and definitely not taking too much time between them. I mean, personally, I'm not really all that into hockey fights, generally speaking, but this one, yeah, this was a heck of a fight, and especially, again, if you are into fights, this, I think halfway through the season, is a top candidate for Fight of the Year. Eventually, the puck is dropped again, and 12 seconds later, it's in the back of the net. Sorry, the Kraken net, in case that wasn't clear from the fact that it's 12 seconds after a Kraken goal. Right off the face-off, the puck pretty much just makes its way right down the middle of the ice through the slot. Lundestrom carries it in, drops it for Silfverberg, who passes it back to Lundstrom, again, right down the slot through the Kraken defense, and he finishes the goal to tie the game. And so now, once again, just over 2 minutes into the game, in the last 12 seconds of game time, we've had 2 goals and a big fight between them, as both teams have scored on their first shot off on goal. For the Kraken, although, again, both teams have just one shot, and how we got to 1-1 is certainly frustrating, I think this game being tied with how the game has gone to this point is something the Kraken will happily take, as the Ducks have still been dominating and continue to do so through the first half of the first period. Eventually, the Kraken are able to gradually slow down the momentum of the Ducks and start to push back the other way a little bit. As they get into the offensive zone, Gord finds a puck in the corner, picks it up, takes it to the side of the net, where he decides to pass it out to the other side for a crossing pass to Dunn, who one-times it into the back of the net to give the Kraken the 2-1 lead. Once again, it's a nice pass from Gord, and an almost equally as nice shot from Dunn, who puts it opposite top corner past a diving, stickless Gibson as Dunn's coming down from the blue line, and the Kraken get back the lead. And not only do they get back the lead, but they're even able to hold on to that lead for the next 30 seconds. Though they're barely able to hold on to it for the next minute, as it takes a series of big saves from Drieger, one on a dangerous wraparound chance, to keep the Ducks from responding quickly for a second time. Thanks to that from Drieger though, and then a couple more saves as we get through the last couple minutes of the first, the Kraken do get to the end of the first period, still holding on to that 2-1 lead, in spite of it being a first period clearly controlled by the Ducks for the vast majority of it, which does give it a little bit of an opposite feeling to the first periods that we've come accustomed to over this last month, where the Kraken have started to play well in the first period, but still seem to find themselves in early deficits. All things considered, I would certainly say that this is a better way to start off a second period, having that lead. And right out of the gates, the Kraken seem to think so too, as they press hard on the Ducks trying to extend that lead, when Dunn fires off a shot that beats the defenders and Gibson, but doesn't beat the crossbar as it finds metal and bounces out. And then the Ducks press right back. It's Lundstrom a couple minutes later who finds his way between the Kraken defense in front of the net. A pass gets into the chaos in front of the net, tipped by Lundstrom. It goes off the post, but as Drieger's trying to get his foot to the side to prevent the shot from going in, unfortunately it goes off of Drieger's foot and into the net to allow the Ducks to tie up the game at 2. And shortly after, it'll be the Ducks who get the first power play of the game on a slashing call on Gord, who tries to argue it going to the box, but it's a pretty easy call to make as he snaps the twig of a Duck player coming down hard with his stick. And on the power play, although Zegras does come up empty early on thanks to a spectacular recovery save by Drieger, and that's also helped out by Zegras not cleanly able to handle the puck before getting the shot off, as if he had, this would have been an easy goal for him. Eventually, the Duck power play does convert, thanks to a shot right down the middle that's deflected out in front by Raquel and into the back of the net to give the Ducks the 3-2 lead. And although he did miss his chance at a goal on this power play, it has to be said that during this game, anytime that Zegras had the puck on his stick behind the Kraken net, that was a pretty unsettling feeling. And he does also end up getting an assist on this power play goal. The Ducks then nearly add to that lead right away after the power play goal, and it takes another big Drieger save to keep this one out of the net as well. Eventually, the Kraken are able to get momentum turned back in the other direction when a puck kind of harmlessly making its way along the boards in the Ducks' end while the Kraken are on a line change. As the clearing attempt is made, it looks like it goes off of a ref's skate, and Gord, who's on the forecheck while that line change happens, is the first one to the puck. A pass and some lazy defense later, it's onto the stick of Donato, who snipes a shot top corner and scores to get the Kraken back in the game. It's tied at 3. For the Ducks on this play, it's pretty much just a defensive comedy of errors, as they're a bit too lazy getting the puck out of the offensive zone, while Gord, one of the Kraken's best forecheckers, is out trying to hunt it down. It does take an unfortunate bounce off of the official, but then the Ducks really don't make that much of an effort to get to it before Gord can. And while Gord gets the pass off, it isn't a particularly good one, and they have a chance to get another defensive stick on it, but can't do that cleanly. Donato capitalizes and puts it into the back of the net for his second goal of the game to this point. And not that it really matters for any particular reason, but a kind of funny coincidence from this second period is that all 3 goal scorers, Lundestrom, Raquel for the Ducks, and now Donato for the Kraken, all put in their 11th goal on the season. And on top of that, 3 of the guys getting the assists, 1 on each goal in Terry, Drysdale, and now Gord on the Kraken goal, all get their 17th assist of the season. So yeah, kind of just a weird coincidence there. It probably is worth mentioning though, with Gord getting his second assist of the game on this goal, that's now 2 games in a row for him getting 2 assists. And once again, for the second game in a row, he was one of the biggest difference makers for the Kraken out on the ice tonight. Though, once again, he gets robbed of a star at the end of the game. A little bit later, as we get towards the last few minutes of the second period, Gibson gets called for a penalty, sending Seattle to the power play. And I have to imagine the fans were still upset about that whole puck off the ref's foot thing, as they start chanting, "Refs, you suck," because if this chant has anything to do with the penalty, yeah, Gibson definitely earned this one, as he puts Gord into a headlock in front of the net and then tries to WWE him to the ice. Gord is able to keep his feet, but yeah, you can't do that even if you are a goaltender. And look, I get that it's a Ducks home crowd and the refs are never the most popular, but for the fans chanting "Refs, you suck" on this one, I mean, are you blind? Man, I hope not for your sake, especially considering the season that Zegras is having and the show that he's putting on. That would be a shame. This Kraken power play, meanwhile, is anything but powerful and doesn't do anything resembling a play. In fact, pretty much the only thing they do manage to accomplish is right in the last few seconds, giving the Ducks a power play of their own following it up. Fortunately, this second Kraken penalty kill is much better than the first one, which is definitely a welcome sight considering this penalty kill for the Kraken has been pretty underratedly bad over the last few weeks, pretty much only flying under the radar thanks to how bad the power play has been. I mean, really, over this last month, generally speaking, the Kraken special teams have been bad enough to even make a Green Bay Packers fan cringe. But we're going to get to see even more of them just shortly, as with 9 seconds left in the second period, the Kraken draw another penalty to go to their second power play of the game. I mean, I guess there's a chance that with the massively improved second penalty kill by the Kraken, the power play can build off of that momentum and at least not look completely helpless like they did in the first one. And I guess, even with 9 seconds left, they are able to do that, as in those 9 seconds, they get a good scoring chance and a nice shot off on goal. The save is made, but even just in those 9 seconds, this power play is already better than the entire 2-minute power play before. The Kraken then obviously start out the third with the majority of that power play still remaining, and it has to be said it is a much better power play than the first one, though the bar was pretty low. The announcers for ESPN Plus even notice as much, saying that, quote, it's a much better power play for the Kraken as they're actually trying to score on Gibson. I'm not really sure that that's exactly what he was trying to say when he set out on that sentence, but to be fair, he's also not wrong. Still though, it's killed off, and aside from a clutch 3-save sequence by Drieger and Gio putting another shot off a post, it's kind of an uneventful third period right up until the last couple of minutes when Dunn and Zegras go at each other with their sticks. Zegras goes at the back of Dunn's knee, and Dunn responds by just going karate chop with the stick right at Zegras' legs, who goes to the ice. Zegras does end up being fine. He was more, I think, just trying to sell it for the ref, and ultimately they end up trading minor slashing calls. The 2 minutes of 4-on-4 don't really end up going much of anywhere, but as Zegras and Dunn exit the boxes, the Kraken push into the Anaheim end. It's Gio up to Sheahan, who gets it to his backhand and feeling saucy dishes a beautiful pass over to Eberle, who goes down onto one knee, praying and begging that this puck can go into the net for him on that 22-game goalless streak. And it does! He puts it into the net with just 1 minute and 42 seconds. The Kraken have the 4-3 lead. So it's Gio and Sheahan who get the assists, and for Eberle, it's his 13th goal of the season, but his first since December 6th of 2021, and it couldn't have come at a better time. Although, we shouldn't get too excited just yet, because a minute and 42 seconds is a lot of time for especially this team to kill off, especially in the third period and after an important goal. Thankfully, they are able to do so, as they're able to hold Gibson in net until there's less than a minute and a half left in the game, at which point the remaining 6-on-5 time the Ducks are able to get just isn't really able to get much of anything going, and Seattle hangs on to get the 4-3 win in Anaheim for their first ever victory against the Ducks. Eberle and Donato get the 2 stars for the Kraken, while Lundestrom and his 2 goals for the Duck get the 3rd star, in a game that, especially after the first half of the first period, which again was pretty dominated by the Ducks, is a pretty evenly played game between the two teams, back and forth all the way. A very exciting game to watch, especially with that quick start, the 2 goals, and big fight early on. And even statistically, with shots on goal, hits, and penalty minutes all being equal, this is a game that could have gone either way, and the type of game that for the Kraken up until this point in the season had very often been going against them, but in this one, they're able to get that late goal and not give up an equalizing goal in order to get the win. Aside from Eberle and Donato, who already got their stars officially, a couple of other stars for the Kraken in this game, obviously Yanni Gourde with 2 assists and driving a number of plays even outside of those 2, as well as we'll give one to Zarnik getting an assist in his first game with the Kraken, And I also thought that Hayden Fleury played another very good game, as he continues to have a rebound after being on the bench for a long stint of time there in December and early January. Of course, there still is the potential that part of the reason he's been getting all this ice time all of a sudden is with a thought of him potentially increasing his trade value before the trade deadline, but we'll just deal with that when the time comes. Finally, as I mentioned at the beginning, another game outside of the Kraken one that was happening simultaneous to it is, of course, the men's US Olympic team playing against Team Canada, where they do come out with the 4-2 win. And as far as the Kraken interest is concerned, Matty Beniers does get a shot, but no points in this one. The US, though, getting a second, now 2-0, important win in early group play in the Olympics. Personally, I've only had the chance to watch the end of that game so far, so if you did get a chance to watch that one, I'd love to hear more about it down in the comment section, or just what you guys thought of this big Kraken win against the Ducks in Anaheim, their first win to start the second half of the season coming off the All-Star break. Otherwise, we have reached the end of this one, so if you have made it to this point, thank you very much for watching. If you did like or enjoy this video, as much as we liked and enjoyed the ending to the Kraken game, do feel free to hit the buttons down below that help support the channel, like and subscribe of course. And until next time, stay safe out there, be good to each other, and go Kraken.